Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Alicia Wang, who is such a dear friend, a fellow coach. She's been a huge part of the Flowshala team and Still Mace Vinyasa facilitator team for the past several years. And I've been looking forward to this interview, Alicia, for the longest time. But I'm going to briefly introduce Alicia, and then she can tell you a little bit more about her story. But I first met Alicia when she joined us at Flowshala at our brick and mortar studio downtown Bellingham. She came in and she had just this beautiful aura of just like embodied energy around her. And I was like, this lady is a keeper. Like she is a good human. I could just tell right away. She
Hmm.
had studied animal flow. She'd studied with Rafe, who's a good friend of mine. She was really curious about this clubs and the mace. And when she started working with our clients and teaching classes, like people just immediately fell in love with her. So
Hmm.
that's my 2 cents on Alicia, but I would love for Alicia, for you to just kind of share a little bit about your movement background because it's quite vast and really like why you decided to go into movement professionally, coaching movement professionally as a career.
Yeah, well, I got introduced to movement at a really young age. I started dancing, tap, ballet, jazz, and gymnastics from 3 to 6. And then I took like a year out of movement. I think my mom just kind of like pulled me out of those things, and I started playing team sports and didn't really return to dance until much later in life. But played basketball, softball, soccer, ran track, and also swam. So I kind of pulled myself in and out of those sports at times to try other things. So really like tasted all the things. And then when I went to college, I played basketball and soccer and got introduced to strength training, like heavy Olympic lifting through that, and just fell in love with it. And actually I wanted to be a psych major and took a psych class, and the psych teacher was pretty crazy. And I thought, well, this isn't the route I want to go. So I'm gonna switch my psych class to an anatomy and physiology class. And I found myself just reading the textbook and just loving the human body and being so fascinated about it and feeling like there's never going to be an end to what I can learn here. And it just took me down that pathway. And so I studied physical education recreation at Whittier College, then moved to San Jose for grad school, studied kinesiology there. And I truly am a student for life. So I've always tried to dabble in things that I haven't, like I like to suck at things. So try things that I'm, not well versed in, and dive in and then build that movement practice into my life. And so, yeah, I've dabbled in animal flow, MoveNat, Rafe Kelly's work, Evolve Move Play, which is like rough housing, play fighting, parkour, moving in the natural environment. And then just recently, I did a little stint with Wilderness Awareness School where I was just immersed in nature, and that aspect of it it's always been present in my practice, but it's something that was just like amplified my connection and my desire to want to spread that to other people and include that in the movement practice. Yeah, so, and I've gotten back into dance really recently. So, contact improv and some ecstatic dance and a little bit of swing dancing. So, yeah, like to dabble in all the things and more of a generalist than, sticking with one thing specifically. And then the steel mace end of it, I did step into just to coach actually animal flow and kettlebells, and uh, just really fell in love with the practice. The first time I held a mace, I was like, yeah, like the embodiment of holding a weapon in my hand and then loading a practice yoga, which I've taught. I didn't mention the yoga bit. I guess that's just been sort of like an underlying thing for me. But I started practicing in 2000, and then in 2004 did my first 200 hour and then a 500 hour. And then steel mace was the next practice that I stepped into. And again, I just love the embodiment of it. I love that I feel like a warrior and it feels powerful. And I have one in my car just in case. So, yeah. And it's been such an honor and pleasure to be able to teach it too and watch that embodiment come on and come alive in other humans as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So Alicia also has a master's in kinesiology, and that was one of the reasons why right away I was like, I think she would be just such a great facilitator for the 100 hour. So she jumped into the 100 hour Sumis Vinyasa teacher training, which is now also the Flow Coach Accelerator. And she has been teaching our students pretty consistently for the past, I want to say 2.5 years, somewhere, give or take, somewhere around there.
Yeah, 2 years.
So I'm curious, with your work with working with beginning like coaches or people that are not familiar with the steel mace, what has that been like for you with stepping into your seat as being part of the facilitator team?
I feel like that is the part of my life that just like lights me up the most. I feel like to watch people come in and feel like a lot of people come in and it's overwhelming because one, they haven't held this tool before, but they're also stepping into a totally different way of training. It's not just about counting reps and getting sets done, but it's more about like the embodiment of it, training the nervous system, training the OODA loop, and coordinating everything with breath so that people actually have tools to take this practice off the mat so that they can regulate their body when they're not practicing. And of course, the flow state, having that underlying, I think just the way that we teach, it's something I don't mention a lot, but it's just something that I think happens and I can see it. Like sometimes students start and they're just like kind of deer in headlights and they're like, where am I going? And then you can just see them like relax into their movement and everything softens and they like, you can see the bliss that's in their eyes. And I think for me, that feels really powerful. And one client in particular, I remember when I first met him, his head was down, his shoulders were down, and he was like, "Hey, like he had actually seen a naturopath, and like he was ready to. He was like, I'm getting close to my death essentially." And now he's like, today we just did like a seven, eight part, eight movement flow, and he's an inch and a half taller. So it's just like those things, like the embodiment of like standing taller and being more warrior like, more confident in oneself. That's so empowering to watch, and it's an honor to be able to help people get there. Yeah.
We've definitely altered Flow Coach Accelerator to have different tracks now. And so we have the 50-hour kinesiology yoga and still mace track, and then we have the 100-hour. And I always notice, I don't know if you noticed this, but like yoga teachers at first are really just apprehensive about adding load. It's just very, very foreign. But when we look back throughout history and we look at the Hindu deities that were wielding a mace, like all of them are holding a mace across their body in the statues, in the museums. In Thailand, you just see all these Hindu deities with the mace. So there are some historical origins of, mace work with the yogis, but I think it's kind of this like rejoining the strength, because yoga has become like really like soft and like it's really focused on like the parasympathetic and relaxing. But the original warriors, like we call them warrior poses because they're the most optimal positions to block and to block and prevent yourself from getting struck. But I've just noticed the yogis, when we just give them the 50-hour, like just giving them a smaller bite sometimes can be really helpful for them to step into that empowered space. I don't
I agree. I agree.
know.
And then I find most people want to do the 100-hour because they're like, they
No.
feel the mace and they're like, oh no, now I want to do it. It's like that uneasiness. So it's great to have that option so they can kind of dabble first and see what it feels like in their body and then step in.
You can totally do the non-cert tract as well, but I find most yoga teachers in this day and age, people are realizing like, oh, women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s need to bear load. We need to keep our lean muscle mass on. We need to also balance our hormones with like staying in these steady state exercise, moderate and high intensity zones. So I know this is something you practice all the time with like, one thing I've noticed about Alicia is when we're scheduling things, she has three kiddos, three
Three,
kiddos too.
two,
Okay.
15 and 11.
I have three. I lose track as mom brain.
I
But
hear
she's
you.
always like fitting in, like she's very careful with her time and really prioritizes doing her soccer or doing her workouts or doing her own. Like you're one of those coaches that really does embody your own practice. And I'm curious, like, what does your 7-day flow look like seasonally? Because I know you kind of change it based on the seasons, but where are you at right now with your current like workout routine, training routine, movement? We'll call it movement is life routine.
Yeah. So I use seasonal energy and it's similar. It matches up right alongside the 4-day wave. So our no load day is the winter day. So I'm doing like joint articulation practices. Maybe I'm going for like a gentle walk or hike, meditation and journaling. Sit spot is also another component of that, which is included in the meditation. And then on our no load day, I'm doing more mobility drills, still joint articulation, a little higher intensity walk. And then on the moderate days, it's any combination of clubs, animal flow, steel mace, tree climbing, soccer, not so much anymore. I'm taking a little hiatus from soccer. And then I like I said, I'm a student for life. So I like to dabble in things. So I try to take other people's classes, but also like I've been stepping into aerial work and lyra work a bit and hammocks and so forth and silks. So that's another aspect, but I'm really adamant about including that seasonal energy in my week. And if I'm doing 2 back-to-back higher intensity workouts, I'm always giving myself the next day to have a winter practice to really like let my body regenerate and let my mind kind of also like calm down so that I can like really be ready for that next bout that's going to be a little bit higher intensity. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so back to the questions I had prepared. Alicia and I can talk for days because we're just similar in the way where we just like live and breathe movement. Like that's why I love working with Alicia. That's why I'm so grateful to collaborate on all the projects we have with each other. But I'm curious, when you first started, let's just say like Flowshala and joining the 100-hour Steel Mace Vinyasa teacher training, because you did actually have to go through the curriculum and learn it yourself. But what was missing for you in how you were like running your business, how you're running privates? Kind of just walk us through like where you were at before you started Flowshala and like how things have shifted since you started.
Yeah. I don't think you know some of this actually, Summer, but I had broken my tailbone about 9 months before I interviewed with Summer, and I actually thought I wasn't going to be able to train anymore. Like my arms and legs were numb, and it took 6 months of pelvic floor therapy and chiropractic care to even get to a point where I could like walk for any extended period of time without my legs going completely numb. Um, but things got a little bit better, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to apply for this job and see, and just like keep the skill set that I have, and I really did think that I was just gonna step in and try to find something new. Like honestly, I wasn't thinking that I would be there for a really, really long time, 1 or 2 years, where I kind of built things up and had time to like gain some new skill sets or whatnot. But it completely changed the way I trained, right? Like even kettlebells now, I'm using that prime condition flow decomp along with the breath, and I noticed that it really helped me reset my nervous system and have tools to really handle that. There were other things happening in life that made that really, really important and actually necessary to have that in my life. So it's really synchronistic and serendipitous that it happened the way that it did. And then swinging steel mace completely eradicated any of the numbness I was feeling in my arms. And to this day, like I can still like I can even sleep on my arms and I wake up in the morning and there's no numbness. So there is something really important to circular training and functional training, holistic training. Um, yeah, so that was kind of the place that I was at. I was like almost like on my way out in terms of, in terms of coaching and wanting to like stay in coaching for a really long time. But I did fall in love with it, and it reignited passion and love for movement. It took away my fear of moving in my own body, which is a beautiful thing. And yeah, now I'm at this point in my life where I can't think of there's like nothing else that I'd want to do. And aside from like, hang out with plants, which is part of like what I do from a movement standpoint. So it's like, it's just, yeah, it's brought me into this place where now I have this like new formed foundation that allows me to have the kind of business that gives me the freedom to do all the things that I want to do, especially taking care of my body. So, yeah.
Amazing. I love hearing that story too, because I do remember you were telling me, you did tell me a little bit about your kind of entryway into we're doing like Shred Fit the week that you joined the Flowshala. Give
Yes.
people the short interview. I'm like, you just got to come. You have a 14-day free membership. Come to as many classes as you want. And Alicia was like, boom, 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 like all the classes.
Like I'm there. Free classes, heck yeah, with amazing coaches. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about kind of where you're at right now. Like literally, I believe you're in your studio. So tell us a little bit about what your business looks like now, because we did close the brick and mortar, and Alicia has had a thriving clientele. She's since continued to build her clientele, but tell us a little bit about the work that you do in your private one-on-one practice.
Yeah, so right now I have a pretty full load, mostly training people in person, but I have some virtual clients as well. And then I'm also facilitating the Steel Mace teacher training flow coach accelerator. In terms of just like time with clients, the process is the same for me always. Like I do a consult first just to make sure it's a really good fit. I bring people in, we do a functional movement screen, postural analysis, and then from that I figure out where we need to go. And that really, it always identifies exactly where we need to start. Of course, the programs are always holistic and we focus on the whole body. But if somebody has tight shoulders or weak shoulders or weak core, those are the places that we're going to start. And then I design a 12-week program based on that information and extrapolate that out. And then sometimes that changes. Bodies are different. Sometimes people come in tired. For me, it's always really important to give them tools for autonomy. So like one, having them tell me how they feel when they come in, and then adjusting and adapting that as things fit. More often than not, we do what's planned, but sometimes people do come in a different state and we just adjust things. And then helping them also include that seasonal energy in their week. So, planning it out so that they have those winter, spring, summer, and fall days planned into their week, and especially prioritizing the winter. But all of it has to be there. And then at that 12-week point, I'll usually progress the training program, and sometimes we'll do a functional movement screen. Lately, I've been doing the functional movement screens twice a year, so every 6 months instead of every quarter. Sometimes you don't see a humongous change after 12 weeks. You will, the body will get stronger. So, but it's like in those specific things, it won't be this drastic thing. So it's sometimes nice to give a little more spaciousness to that, and then do another 12-week program and then revisit it again. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so what Alicia just described is pretty much by the book what we teach in Flow Coach Accelerator. We teach bring somebody on with a nice consult, verbally talking about what you do, then functional movement screen definitely like drives the program. And she just described that she creates a new 12-week program for all of her clients. So I'm curious, Alicia, how many clients roughly do you have right now that are doing 12-week programs?
9.
So 9 clients doing 12-week programs. And do you design pretty much like a new program for each of those people?
Yes.
That's one of the
Yes.
I think is so hard for yoga teachers to wrap their head around is the actual program. And so I'm wondering if you had any words of wisdom for yoga teachers that are struggling with this idea of program design versus like they're probably used to doing class sequences or like class design. Like how can we empower yoga teachers to get those skills to do program design successfully?
Well, I think a big part of it is like just getting the knowledge from the right place. So, I mean, to toot our own horns, but like the Flow Coach Accelerator program, really, I mean, this is where I still have my original buckets that I still write my workouts from. Like, I think if you step into the Flow Coach Accelerator, there is like an order of operations that you're taught that will help you facilitate programming. And we always teach simple to complex. And so, like, where all the buckets that we teach from, so all the focal points that we find out where we need to focus when we do our functional movement screen, for me, I have all the exercises that are in our program, as well as like my animal flow and kettlebell workouts. Those are written so that I can just plug and play. So it doesn't have to be like really, really, I think a lot of people see the programming and they're like, at first, and they're like, wow, this is going to be really complicated, but it's not. It's like you choose whatever your focal point is, you choose a few exercises for primary and secondary focuses, you reverse engineer the other parts, so the prime and the decomp and the flow, and then there you go. And like then that becomes like an avatar as well. So it's not like you have to keep reinventing the wheel. Like you'll get people very commonly that have, tight shoulders and they have a weak core. And so that's the primary focus. You can sometimes plug and play those things, but I think as holistic movement coaches, it's our job to refine that and kind of polish it for each person that comes in. But that general shell, like once you get that general shell and you've got all the tools laid out for you, it's very simple actually.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Hey, last couple of questions. I'm curious, what are you working on right now that you're excited about putting out into the
Mm. In April, I'm launching True Nature Reconnect, which is a seasonal alignment energy movement practice. And there'll be 4 modules, one for each season. And seasonal energy will be embedded into each of them, like the actual season, but all the seasons will be in it because all the seasons are in absolutely everything that we do. There'll be nature connection practices, coming together in group calls on Clubhouse where we're talking about what we see at Sit Spot, and then 4 classes weekly. So there'll be a no load, low load, moderate, and high, and all those will be housed in a spot for you to come back to anytime you want. So you'll have the recordings, and then I will pre-record a 30-minute primal flow, which is all ground-based movement. Sometimes loaded, that will be sent out so you'll have a second workout to do if you didn't want to repeat the other one. So yeah, and there'll be one season, and then I think towards the end of the 4th season, we'll do a retreat as well that brings together everyone, and we can practice the seasonal energy together.
Gosh, I'm so excited to try this. Like once you put it out, I definitely want to learn from you. And I used to take a lot of Alicia's virtual classes back at Flowshala, and I always enjoyed your spin on how you programmed with the animal flow mixed with the kettlebell. And I just think it's such an innovative way to kind of load the animal flow movements.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, my last question. What would you tell somebody that is on the fence about joining the Flow Coach Accelerator?
First thing to sign up, the second thing to exhale, and to know that if you time block and you do things just one thing at a time and don't really look ahead at the whole big picture. I mean, have a plan, of course, but like I think sometimes people see all the content and there's so much there that they're like, oh, how am I ever going to get this done? But if you just exhale and know that it's you're not the first person going through the program and you have support all along the way and it's all laid out for you. So it's like how to get those things done. The plan is already there. You just have to show up and block the time to get it done. And I don't know, I'll just speak for myself in that I feel like all the things that I didn't know that I needed to get from the program, I got. And it was just by showing up and embodying the practice and practicing, really. Like that's all it really took, was just practicing, and practice and all is coming, as Patabi Joy says, right? Like, and yeah, I think I wouldn't hesitate to do it. If there's like a hesitation, talk to another coach that's been through the program, and just know that there's something uniquely yours that can be shared and illuminated through this practice. And that's the thing that lights me up most, is when I see coaches come in and every single person produces a different program that has their signature stamp on it. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's such a good reminder. The time blocking piece is so critical, because our brains naturally want to just like have it all done instantly, but it's a 6-month program now, and so it takes time to develop each little program, but you leave with like actual offers and actual programs.
Yes.
So there's one other thing I forgot to mention. Alicia and I are teaching a Steel Mace Vinyasa Level 2 seminar in Bellingham this April, the first one we've done for the public since I launched that program. So traditionally, I've only taught Steel Mace Vinyasa Level 1, which is like the original, 20 exercises of loaded asana conditioning with the prime condition flow method. And so we are actually going to be teaching the content that's in the Steel Mace Vinyasa Level 1 and Level 2 programs, which are more compound, complex exercises. So think your front swings into tactical lunges, think your drop swings, think, your side swings into warrior two. If none of these movements mean anything to you, then you're going to be learning a lot about movement and footwork and how to like transition load in different patterns with the mace and really training like a warrior. But I'm curious, what are you looking forward to about that seminar, which is coming up the last weekend in April? We'll be putting out a bunch of content. We're actually going to be shooting some content next week at the annex. The Bellingham Yoga Collective is renting us their little brick studio in this like 100-year-old building. It's going to be super cool. We get to use the granary building as well. But yeah, what are you looking forward to about the SMV Level 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do a lot of teaching of some of the less complex movements. So to be able to step in and teach some things that I'm practicing on a regular basis feels so exciting. And then selfishly, just to get to spend time with you in a beautiful place, it sounds really wonderful. And like I said, coaching other coaches lights me up. It is the thing that just like gives me so much energy. It's always reciprocal. And I'm really, really stoked to be teaching other coaches and right alongside the amazing Summer Huntington.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time. We've been meeting, just kind of getting our curriculum dialed in, but we have about 12 workouts and 12 flows that we'll be going through in the course of 2 days. So this is a seminar for doing. You'll definitely get prep materials where you can prep before, and then you'll have lifetime access to it after too. And then you get a great big manual, 180 plus pages with all the exercises and all the yoga poses. Everything's laid out and written. But this is definitely something that you want to train for. Like, get yourself in a regular training routine. Don't just show up with no practice. Like, make sure that you get started with some basic mace exercises before you show up, because we're going to be training a lot. And then we always like to go out to like a little team dinner on Saturday somewhere local, just so we can kind of bond and hang out with the crew. And there's just something magic about every time we do a big seminar or a retreat. I know you've come to quite a few of our events. Yeah, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about like what to expect as far as like the support, because some people are really intimidated. They're like, oh my gosh, like if I'm not perfect at it, I shouldn't come or whatever. Like, what are your thoughts on like the supportive nature of our events being all
I
levels?
think I think there's a lot of intentionality around teaching simple to complex and also regression. So our idea is not to like stuff people into poses or shapes or movements. It's really to guide them to the best form, mechanical form, the safest that's going to help their nervous system stay calm and help their body get strong. So yeah, don't worry about not knowing the movements. Like that's what we're here for, to teach you and to make sure that you're doing all the things in a way that'll help you get strong.
Yeah, and it's a lot of powerhouse ladies too, and guys. But we love working with you. Well, thank you so
Yes.
much for sharing all of your wisdom and just for being a part of the
Yeah.
team. looking forward to the next time we train together, which will probably be next.
Likewise.
All
Yeah,
right.
likewise. Thank you so much.
Take care.